welcome to the program. I'm Danielle and I'm facilitating it through the Medford Library. I'm a librarian here. And one thing we do have to say with all of our programs is that the views and opinions expressed in the program are those of the presenter and not necessarily those of Jackson County Library Services. This is a program that's not necessarily controversial, but we do have to say that at every once, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Bonnie.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Bonnie. I work for Road Credit Union and I'm the Financial Education Coordinator. I am presenting on cybersecurity today. It's actually Information Security Awareness Month, the month of October, and this is a very important topic, but often overlooked in the realm of personal finance. However, identity theft is the #1 fear of Americans in the midst of financial crisis. So we kind of went over housekeeping, use the chat function, but I will be doing questions and answers at the end. So if you want to just write those things down, or I'll revisit the chat function at the very end. So let's go ahead and dive on to it. So some of the stuff that I want you guys to take away today is being able to recognize the importance of protecting yourself, identifying the difference between scams, identity theft, and fraud, giving examples of how to spot financial crimes, how to prevent and detect them, and then by applying cybersecurity pro tips, protection. So this class is actually a compilation of 2 online classes that we have on our financial education page, which can be taken as a self-paced format, somewhat interactive, and you can share that with your friends and family or your colleagues. So this is a 3-part series, but I added part 1 and 2 together for today. And then if you want to follow up with the 3rd part on your own time, feel free. I'll reference that at the very end. So just some questions to ask yourself when learning about this topic is, oops, I have to do them both at the same time. Sorry about that. How would you rate your understanding of this topic? Beginner, intermediate, expert, not sure until I learn more. What do you hope to take, or what do you hope to gain by taking this class? Have you ever been a victim of fraud or identity theft? And how often do you use mobile apps and or the internet? So every day, 2 to 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a month, almost ever. So basically, the more you use it, the greater at risk you are. So what is information security awareness? This is actually, as our online traffic increases with online shopping, automatic bill pay, web browsing, and more, the risk becomes higher, and the victims of cybercrime in person over the phone also increases. So we just need to be aware of and what to look out for and how to protect ourselves. So cybercrime, the definition is criminal activities carried out by means of computers or the internet. So this can be identity theft, data theft, and fraud. Physical crimes against a consumer can also take place, resulting in identity theft, for example, mail fraud or door-to-door scams. With financial fraud, identity theft, and scams on the rise, we need to make informed decisions and understand how to protect our finances. So this is important because on average, over 15 million US residents have had their identity compromised each year. So with financial losses approaching $40 to $50 billion annually, and just talking about Oregon alone in 2019, that's over 4,000 cases. So I want you to think of a time when you received a robocall asking for your information. I don't know about you guys, I get these on the daily. You receive an email saying your personal information has been part of a large breach. This has definitely happened to me a few times where people are scamming and the actual company themselves contact us and tell us, you need to take this extra precaution because your personal information was a victim. You notice a purchase on your credit card that was not made by you. We'll get more into about that later. You hear about an elderly person who was scammed. Your computer was taken over by a virus. You heard a friend's story who had their identity stolen, and you saw anything on the news related to this topic. So basically, not just applying to you, but also applying to your loved ones, your friends, family, or even your colleagues. These are all cyber crimes that are on the rise. Not only can be cyber crimes, or not only cyber crimes causing delay of credit, also higher credit. It increases times of cleaning up the mess, and they can also cost your identity and even your life savings. So let's take a look at these 3 crimes against the consumer: scams, fraud, and identity theft. They all work together. but they also can work separately. So scams are basically the vehicle in which the scammers can get to you. So in the form of fraud, someone can attempt to acquire money or sensitive pieces of personal information to access your own accounts. Information gathered through scams can lead to identity theft. So fraud is a little bit different. This is the wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. The end result could be identity theft, but fraud can also work and not in conjunction with identity theft. So identity theft is typically the end result, which is enough personal information that's been accumulated on someone for the purposes of setting up new accounts for financial gain, usually with your information, someone impersonating you. So let's talk a little bit about cybercrime statistics. The most common category for fraud complaints in 2019 were imposter scams, debt collection, and identity theft. So credit card fraud was the most prevalent in identity theft cases. More than 167,000 people in the US reported fraudulent credit card activity, and accounts were opened with their information. So it is really important to check your credit at least annually, which is free with all 3 agencies. And let me just note that I didn't even know until a few years ago, each agency actually has their own credit report. So different things come up on different reports. So thankfully, we can pull them all in the same place, annualcreditreport.com. And like I said, it's free once a year. And actually, because of COVID and COVID scams on the rise, they're allowing weekly online reports through April 2021. And I think that's awesome. Unfortunately, we are having to take these extra precautions. And who's to say that that might be extended through April 2021 because of all of these things happening online. They might see the value in this happening more than once a year. So check your credit reports. So cyber attacks are more ambitious. Cyber criminals really understand those vague passwords, versions of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blank, system, shell, admin, password. Those things are the most used by people. So just make sure not to use those, and we'll talk more about passwords later. And then form jacking is a new term. This is actually up 117%. And this is when a hacker infiltrates an e-commerce checkout page to steal your credit card information, and then a digital version of the ATM skimmer, basically. So over 50,000 unique websites in the US were compromised by form jacking in 2018, and cyber criminals continue to take millions each month by hijacking your credit card information from online payments. So what is the difference between fraud and identity theft? Fraud is just the act of stealing and misusing personal information, and this can be done in pyramid schemes. So there's a lot of that happening right now, kind of like work from home situations, multi-level marketing. Insurance fraud, unfortunately, happens a lot, especially with the elderly or the younger people who don't have a lot of knowledge about insurance at this time in their life. Charities fraud, check fraud, and debt elimination. We'll go into some of those more in detail in a little bit. And then identity theft is using stolen information to open and abuse new accounts under the victim's name. So all of this is considered personal information: name, social security number, birthday, address, passwords, credit card numbers. You're gonna hear this as a theme in my presentation. Make sure to protect all that information. So criminals and con artists may use scams to target unsuspecting people. The 3 main ways they can do this is through in-person, phone, online, and those can all be used in various ways, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So it's important to note that many of these scams can happen in more than one way, and the scam that can happen on the phone can also happen in person, online, and vice versa. Oops. So who is most vulnerable? This is unfortunately the senior population. They're the most common victims. Some studies suggest that people become more trusting as they age, which can explain why it's more difficult for older adults to detect fraudsters. Other vulnerable characteristics include, and this isn't just limited to the elderly population, recently losing a spouse or partner, experiencing pressure from children or caregivers to ensure or to share money and change wills, social isolation, being dependent on someone for care, or even, financially being dependent on someone else, having someone else manage your money, a recent change in health, just those overwhelming feelings of stress managing money, and willingness to listen to telemarketing spam calls, attending those free lunch seminars, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and investigate work at home opportunities or sweepstakes. So let's talk just a second about identity theft statistics. So repeat victims, according to the Center for Victim Research, 7 to 10% of the US population are victims of identity fraud each year, and 21% of those experience multiple incidents of identity theft. And ghosting is the new term, often going unnoticed by surviving families for months or years. 2.5 million identities of deceased individuals are stolen each year because nobody is monitoring those counts, nobody is checking those credit reports, and unfortunately fraudsters are targeting that. So you're more than likely to have your identity stolen than your car stolen. 18% of victims take 4 or more years to notice identity theft. 330 hours on average is the time spent cleaning up after someone steals your identity. The average loss in wages from identity theft is between $1,800 and $14,000, and victims spend between $800 and $1,400 paying for the loss of that identity theft. 50% of identity theft victims have a hard time getting loans or credit cards due to identity theft, and 66% of those victims have their information used to open new accounts. So a lot of the common scams, these are like the top rated common scams of identity theft and fraud, are Craigslist sales. Also can be added to that now are Facebook sales. I steer very clear of Facebook Pay. Any secured payments I'll do, but not anything like that. So foreclosure relief scams, people are definitely more vulnerable at that time in their life. Debt collection, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Census-related fraud, government grant scams, investment scams, lottery and sweepstake scams. You can't win a lottery or sweepstake that you did not apply for. Charity scams, pyramid schemes, Ponzi schemes, and ticket scams. Other scams that are not listed on here are contractor scams. So someone knocks on your door, offers you work at a home discount. It could be a scam. Often these con artists charge more than their quoted prices, and then you end up spending a lot more than what you had bargained for, but there's no way for you to get out of it. Free lunch. So you're invited to hear a pitch for an investment in exchange for a free meal. These are never free. Maybe it will be free, but you'll have to sit there for 3 hours and they'll be trying to get you to buy a timeshare after that. So those are often fraud and scams. So remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Lastly is the tech support scam, when scammers pretend to be techs who have detected viruses on your computer or other malware on your computer, and they might try to convince you to buy fake security software, giving them access to your credit card. Don't give out this financial information on an unsolicited call, and only seek out those trusted sources. So the number one scam type is the in-person. This is the in-person category. Stealing important documents, going through mail, snail mail, otherwise known as, I always say shred all documents with your personal information, even those that are credit card offers, because you just don't know when someone is going to try and take that information and open the account on your behalf. Invest in a little $20 shredder that you keep at your house. You will not regret it. Door-to-door scams, like I mentioned, investment scams and fraud, these can happen in various ways, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Card skimmers, so hide your PIN number on ATMs, we'll also touch on that. And then juice jacking. Juice jacking is a new thing that I learned about this year. So all of those free charging stations, such as airport, coffee shops, college campuses, otherwise, sometimes they're safe, but other times they are a target for ATM skinners. Well, like ATM skinners. So if you plug your mobile device into a compromised charging station, the US port can allow a hacker to watch everything you do and then steal your information. So This can happen in various ways, but just, be on the lookout and make sure you are protecting yourself. So mail fraud, I talked a little bit about that already. So claims that you've won money in the mail, letters asking you to pay a fee to receive a prize. I actually heard a story from my son's preschool provider a couple of days ago. An elderly woman got a phone call. They were stating they were from Road Credit Union, which is who she banks with, and that she had fraudulent activity. And in order to take care of that fraudulent activity, she had to go to Fred Meyer and purchase $3,000 worth of gift cards. Well, she drove down to Fred Meyer and was in the middle of purchasing those when someone found out what was happening and they stopped her. And then she went down to Road Credit Union with them and found out that Road Credit Union had nothing to do with this. So unfortunately, all of these things are happening all over the place. This is one example that did happen over the phone, but things like that can happen over the mail as well. Okay, so scam collections. So thieves posing as collection agencies to steal money or personal information, PII, otherwise known as. Many schemes target seniors. So if you receive a call or an email letter demanding immediate payment with a credit card or reloadable card, just like I mentioned, do not make that payment. If this happens, ask for verification. So under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, you can request a written validation notice that includes the debt amount, the creditor's name, and the description of the rights under that act. If you don't hear back from the caller or they refuse to give you that information, the chances are that was fraudulent. So some investment scams, these are the top investment scams. Self-directed IRAs, gold, oil, and gas, promissory notes, Ponzi schemes, real estate investment scams, and lots of new technology, unfortunately, which can all be good things to invest in, but not without doing your due diligence. So some signs that you can look at in order to possibly recognize these scams are a larger rate of return than you've ever seen before, especially one that's better than similar investments. A guarantee that the investment will not fail. There's no such thing, that investment has no ability to fail. Insisting that the investment is available only for a short period of time, and that pressure to go ahead and invest quickly before the opportunity goes away. The absence of any documents, particularly those that outline the investment, how it works, and how you will be paid. So just like I said before, a good rule of thumb with any investment is if you cannot explain it, it is probably not right for you. You can look up complaint information for companies and individuals regulated by the Division of Financial Regulation, and that's through the state of Oregon. So financial service providers through the NMLS Consumer Access Portal is a good way to do that. And then also investment brokers, you can also look up their credentials and their complaint history on Broker Check. So showing employment, history, certifications, licenses, and complaints, as mentioned. So I talked a little bit about already how to spot a card skimmer. Ways to do that is look for anything unusual with the card reader on ATM machines. Jiggle the card, reading the area. Skimmers are usually placed quickly and may be loose. Unfortunately, I hear about this happening more often than not in some areas. ATMs are more commonly targeted for skimmers. Anything looks or feels suspicious, use a different one and inform Red Credit Union or whoever the business is immediately. So these card skimmers are devices that enable thieves to steal cards and data and use it for fraudulent transactions. They're added to the card reader devices to capture your information. And then of course, make sure that nobody's hovering around you. Social distancing. So scam number 2 would be phone scams, such as financial institution imposters, police or government agencies. Many fraudsters are posing as banks or government agencies these days. Prize lottery winners. You can't win something you didn't enter. Something such as a loved one in trouble. Please send your money because your grandson is overseas and he's in jail, kind of thing. That happens all the time. You hear about it all the time. Telemarketing, charity, asking for money for a real event, but they're actually imposters. So make sure, especially right now with everything that our community is going through, if you are donating money, make sure that it is credible. Telemarketing, text scams, and debt collection. So ways to detect phone scams would be, well, you just need to ask for, they need to ask for personal information. As mentioned, they ask you to send money. Do not ever do that. Usually an emergency situation, as mentioned, and then spoofing, which is a new term that I learned last year. That's when the caller ID shows a strange number or even a local phone number matching your area code. So I get phone calls all the time with the 541 area code, and sometimes I'll answer for whatever reason, and it's just an automated person saying that, oh, you've been selected for, or if you don't take action right now, we're going to send you to jail. So unfortunately, this stuff is happening all around us. And when these phone numbers show up as local, they might be nowhere near you. So be wary of someone who's asking you for money by wire transfer, gift cards, or mobile payment app, or ask you to cash their check and send a portion of the money back. So some ways to prevent these phone scams from happening would be to secure your devices with anti-malware and internet protection software. Make sure to set these security softwares to automatically update and invest in this maintenance. Update your software regularly. Carefully review that the security settings and options of new smart devices on your phone. So if connected to the internet like smartphones, they can be at any risk. Lots of electronics such as Alexa, smart TVs, and home security systems, even your smart fridges are now at risk as well. Utilize multi-factor authentication. So that's usually is a fingerprint or a facial recognition. Just for security purposes, I can't open my phone without my thumbprint. And then make sure if an Android user, you can turn off your Bluetooth and NFC when you're not using it. And then if you are an iPhone user, the AirDrop feature actually can allow anyone to drop anything with a general vicinity, within your general vicinity into your AirDrop. So make sure you check those settings. And you can encrypt your texts if you would like, using Signal app, WhatsApp app, and Message. And then also a VPN network. This is highly utilized over businesses, sometimes even at home. So I know that we use it to make sure that nobody can just hack into our accounts. And then mobile antivirus. Oops. Okay, so the opt-out option. This is one that I try to do once a year because just like everything you sign up for, it can get sold and you are constantly getting phone calls or emails, spam. So it's just optoutscreen.com and then the donotcall.gov. Another example would be money transmission. So don't send money to someone you haven't met in person. I've said this a few times, but really trying to drill it in. Be suspicious and ask a lot of questions. So just like that hard luck story about someone's grandson or someone needing money so they can get out of jail, those types of things. Never send money to pay taxes and fees on lottery or prize winnings. And cash apps like Venmo transactions that actually look like it's in your account, but it hasn't cleared yet, and they can actually cancel the payment and collect it on their own end after collecting whatever it is that was being sold. So that's really unfortunate. So don't wire money or use a prepaid card to cover any upfront fees for a loan. More than likely, the lender is unlicensed in Oregon. Just like I said, you can look those people up to make sure the validity on them. And then transmitting money by wiring or by using a prepaid card is just like cash. Social Security fraud is on the rise. Don't share Social Security or Medicare information, numbers, or financial information with someone you don't know who contacts you by phone, in-person, text message, social media, or email. If they threaten you in any way, email or text with personal information, with your own personal information, rather than asking for it. If they have misspellings or grammatical errors offer to increase benefits in exchange for payment, or request payments by gift or prepaid cash, wire transfer, etc. These are all signs of a scam. And you can report that and question with the Inspector General or visit identitytheft.gov. So another scam example is debt collection. Warning signs of these would be that if the person withholds information from you, pressures you to pay by money transfer, prepaid card, falsely threatens you with jail time, or poses as a government official, says they will tell your family, friends, and employer, ask you for sensitive personal information, bank account, etc., or calls you between 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. These are all things that your bank will not do, and the government will not do. So if any of these things happen, just know that they are imposters, and politely hang up. So you can learn to protect yourself by asking for a callback number, making sure you've been given information about the debt before you pay, contact your original creditors, so whoever that be, and check your credit report for the account in question. Understand your rights, and if they have been violated, you can submit that complaint to the Federal Trade Commission or your state attorney general's office. So a debt collector must tell you information such as the name of the creditor, the amount owed, and that if you dispute the debt, the debt collector will have to obtain information of that debt. So they're generally not allowed to tell other people about your debt without your permission, and they can only ask others about your whereabouts and try to contact you, but not do those other things as mentioned. So this is actually protected by the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which prohibits debt collectors from engaging in a variety of practices such as misrepresenting the debt, falsely claiming to be a lawyer, or using obscene or profane language while trying to collect a debt. The third scam example would be online scams. Email, social media, cash apps, military benefits, payday loan lenders, and online dating. This is an example of a bait and switch email. So these are unsolicited emails with bait and switch, which is when a hacker buys advertising space on a web page and then links that advertisement to a page that's infected with malware. So they can offer you low interest rate loans and promise no upfront fees, but when you call, they'll ask for a proof of financial stability, which is an upfront fee, and tell you how low the interest rate is, which is actually illegal in Oregon. 3 ways to spot an email scam would be strange characteristics and misspelled words in the subject line. I think, Louisa, you were saying that you guys were looking for ways to spot those scams. So this is a good one for you. Checking the links in the email by hovering over the links to show what site it will actually direct you to, because they'll often pose as, someone like your financial institution or Amazon or someone you do business with. But then when you hover over that link, it reads something entirely different. So those are scams. If this email is from a business, just verify with the business that the email is legit before clicking any links. So again, a sense of urgency. The from address does not match the reply address. Ask you to enter that personal information or click a link. Do not click the link. And the subject line can have weird symbols. So when you hover over the links, they go to a strange site. For example, free trial offer, just give your credit card number. So some ways to prevent those would be encrypt data, use secure sites. Often I just ignore the pop-ups requesting information, and be wary of links and emails. So you can report those scams by forwarding them to that email address listed. And that's a government website. So social media scams are always on the rise. I know that most of us can get bored and play around on social media without thinking about what the repercussions could be. I love this example on the left that says, stop giving people your personal information to guess your passwords and security. That's when you fill out those silly little quizzes about your first job, favorite food, blah, 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 because those are all used against you when people are trying to guess your passwords. So don't fill those out. Cybercrime is on the rise with hackers using your personal information. Don't overshare on social media. you know, even with people who are your friends, you don't know if their information is private, and you just don't know how your things can get hacked. So keep all of that stuff private. And then the facial alteration games, I didn't even think about this, but I put this in there because one of my friends works for a government agency, and I saw her post something last year about these games. Basically, you post a picture of yourself and it turns you into what you would look like when you're 85 years old. And those can actually be used against you to trick facial recognition software that doesn't protect your account. And that's called AI, artificial intelligence. That's just another scam that's on the rise. So in addition to the elderly population, the military personnel are the second targets for being victims of identity theft. So Social Security numbers are heavily relied on with these assignments, and these people are typically overseas for extended periods of time, making it harder for them to access and monitor their accounts on an everyday basis. So other target populations include college students, children, people with disabilities, and incarcerated persons. So payday loan lenders, this is kind of on the rise as well. Here's an example of a victim story. I obtained a $300 loan from this company via Money Mutual. Since that time, I have paid a total of $1,200 for a $300 loan. I have no access to my record on their website, and no one at the company will speak to me, yet they continue to debit my account every other week. And this was something that I found in my research that just happened last year in Oregon. Just one small example. So loan referral services, they're not typically lenders, but they offer to match you up with one. So currently there are no licensed loan referral services in Oregon. So don't seek them out or reply because they have very high fees. And false licenses are the second one. Emails that include a copy of the lender's Oregon license may have been lifted, so basically stolen from a licensed lender's website and altered to look legitimate. So basically what can happen here is they can scam you in two ways. You might think the online payday loan is a quick and easy way to help structure money, but before you enter your bank account or any other personal information on a payday loan website, back away from the keyboard, because that online payday loan might be a window to a scam. And fraudsters can collect all of your information when you enroll in other reoccurring expenses or other large one-time withdrawals without you noticing. And this doesn't actually always have to happen with a large amount. It could be a smaller amount. One of my coworkers said that they were noticing, $50 a week being taken from their bank account, and this had nothing to do with anything they were doing. But it was just like, oh, if it's a small amount, nobody will ever notice. So that's just really important to keep an eye out for. So unless you check your accounts often, you won't notice these things. This is the first way you can be scammed. The second is by providing you illegally high fees. And we will go over that here. So the majority of complaints received from the state of Oregon are from individuals who applied for a payday or a title loan through an unlicensed lender. In this case, the amount is well over Oregon's fee and annual percentage rate limitation. So this is actually the chart that you should look at when paying for a payday loan. So the loan amount, for example, would be $100. The origination fee could be around $13, and the total loan cost would be $113. It wouldn't be, a $100 loan for $1,300. So charity fraud schemes seeking donations for organizations that do little or no work. Instead, the money goes to the fake charity's creator. I would say definitely be on the lookout for these, especially prevalent after high-profile disasters such as COVID and recent wildfires in our community. Criminals are often targeting strategies to exploit the vulnerable and others who want to help. Uh-oh. Sorry, my slideshow's being kind of crazy. Stuck, okay. Okay, so one example that's on the rise also is called catfishing. This is one of many romance scams. They're all around. So basically the term I like to use is guard your wallet as your heart. Don't transfer money to give them, don't give them passwords or personal information, and don't sign anything related to finances and so on. This little clip was an 80-year-old man who was swindled out of his whole retirement scheme because he met someone online and transferred her money and, you know, basically all of that. So being catfished actually means being deceived online as a scammer professed their romantic feelings to his or her victim, but isn't who they say they are. So over several months, the con artist convinced the elderly man that they were in a long distance relationship. The widower lost his entire investment, and investigators have been unable to locate the scammer. I could tell you a story about a colleague that I knew a few years ago that had something similar happen to her, and it was just someone that she had met playing video games with online, and then she was scammed over thousands of dollars in a blackmail sense. So now that you have a better understanding of information security awareness, let's just take a few minutes and talk about how to protect yourself from being scammed. So the biggest one is password protection is huge. Use smarter passwords. I like this little graphic on the side. Think of a password such as all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. And then you kind of jumble that into your own acronym. So ALW4CIM2FT, because no one's ever going to get that right. So make sure it's actually preferred that your passwords are 8 to 16 characters and contain upper lowercase numbers and symbols. And make sure that you have a unique password for every account. I know that that is difficult for some people, but you can use a password manager. Some examples are LastPass, Dashline, 1Password, Sticky Password, and KeePass, just to name a few, because you know the more you have, the more protected you are. Another thing to think about is protect yourself while traveling or anywhere on the go. So travel notifications, carded spending, always notify your financial institution of your travel plans. I know that I always appreciate when I get a phone call if I'm overseas or even in another state spending money, and my bank account will not let me, it won't let that transaction go through because they know that you were not traveling. So, you know, if you're protected like that and you notify your institution if you are or not, just to have those settings on there, it will really protect yourself. So think twice about using public Wi-Fi like we talked about. Passwords and tracking like we talked about. You can have your tracking location on so that if your phone is stolen, then you'll be able to track that. And social media posting, which I already touched on. And then protecting your home. I did get a locked mailbox last year because unfortunately there's been a lot of mailbox theft in Medford, especially this year. But you can also do a mail hold with USPS, and it will email you daily exactly what will be coming in the mail that day via USPS, and then also, you know, delivering packages so you can be on the lookout for those. It is smart to invest in a safe, so lock up those social security numbers, birth certificates, etc., and consider having a friend or a family member watch your home. Okay, so this is just a quick little review to match the type of crime against the consumer to the example. So if you guys want to, since we only have a couple people on, we could do the chat function, or we can go ahead and just unmute if someone wants to tell me the 3 ways scams can happen. So basically the ones on the left, you would be matching to the ones on the right.
¿Cuáles son las 3 maneras de scams? By email, phone, by phone, person, in person.
Yeah, so the 3 ways, the 3 main ways that scams happen are in person, phone, or online. So what about the examples of fraud? Which one would be matching that on the right-hand side?
Pyramid schemes, insurance, charities, checks, and debt elimination.
Yes, exactly. So identity theft, personal information, anything that you basically need to protect your heart and your wallet would be name, social security number, birth date, and so on. Just making sure you guys are awake. Okay, so I just want to review some examples of matching the scam to the definition. We've got 5 examples of scams here, and then the scam types that you can choose from are on the right bottom. So number 1, you get a call from a grandchild or a relative asking you to wire money or send gift cards to help them out of trouble, and then they ask you not to tell anyone. This could be a scam. Which example would this be?
The grandparent?
Yes. So you receive a call or email congratulating you on being a winner and ask for an upfront payment for fees and taxes. Similarly, if you were asked to pay in advance on sweepstakes, prize winnings, it could be a scam. Which one would this be?
A lottery one?
Yes. So number 3, you receive an authentic looking emails or text messages with links that ask you to share bank account or credit card account numbers or your social security number. Which one would this be?
Spoofing?
No, se me es que es phishing, ¿no?
Phishing es más como emails. Spoofing?
Phishing.
Oh,
Very
okay.
close. These ones are a little trickier.
Yeah.
So you get an email that looks like it's from a friend who needs money to deal with an emergency. If you receive an email like this, always check with the sender by phone or in person. Which one would this be?
También.
That one's probably the spoofing one then.
You got it. So that just leaves us with the last one. And this is an example of a charity scam. You get a call or an email asking for a donation for a charity, and you never heard of anything such as this. Look the charity up before giving out your credit card number. Scammers could be trying to take advantage of you and your generosity.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's harder. I'm not giving you the answers. If you don't know the answers, I'll just shout them out. So number 1, posting on blank and blank when you're out of town can put you at risk and is an example of social networking identity theft.
Social media.
Social media?
Yes. Okay, number 2, robocalls. Computers taken over by a virus and data breaches are all examples of
Scam?
cybercrime.
Cybercrime.
Number 3, millions of deceased identities are stolen each year. This is called?
Ghosting, right?
You got it. Number 4, cyber criminals continue to take in millions each month by hijacking credit card data from online payments. And this is called? Form jacking.
Oh, forms.
Form jacking. Number 5, be wary of blank that offer protection and security or ones that remind you to update.
Like the computer malware stuff. But I don't know. That's the actual name, malware.
Yeah. What is this? Yeah, like malware.
I'm thinking is it malware?
You guys are on the right track. So it's just pop-ups.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So number 6, set your security software, internet browser, and operating systems, either Windows or Mac, to update blank.
Automatically or regularly?
Yeah, automatically. So do not blank passwords. Use different passwords for different accounts and frequently change them. Ensure the strengths of passwords.
Reuse passwords
The same?
or the same password.
Do not use the same passwords?
Just do not share passwords.
Okay.
Yeah. And be proactive, not blank. Take control of your credit by checking your report blank and review accounts blank.
Well, it's proactive. So you want to check your report often, but
La-
You guys are on the right track. I can hear it. So basically, be proactive, not reactive. Take control of your credit by checking your report yearly and review accounts monthly.
Oh,
So I just wanted to say thanks for joining us. Like I mentioned before, we do have the third part, and that is actually what to do when you become a victim of fraud or identity theft, which is offered online at as a self-paced class. And I put our website at the top, the financial education link up there.
oh,
And then the second one is actually our YouTube channel. I think we have around 30 or so short video clips. They're just about 3.5 minutes long, and there are monthly dollars and cents topics. Those are always financial education related. Some are related to security, some are related to credit, others are related to things like estate planning or budgeting, homeowners insurance. There's all sorts of things. And we do those monthly. So in addition to those monthly, we also do our newsletter. I'm not sure if anyone on the call is a Road Credit Union member, but we have our newsletter, sign up online, and that will give you access to those monthly updates just straight to your email box. And then we have, I want to say we have 4 email series courses. One is on budget, one is on credit, one is paying for college, and one is paying off your student loans. And then we have 7, I believe, online classes. And this is basically 2 of them. And so my goal today was not to scare you, but to empower you with the tools that you need to protect yourself and your family. And so, you know, basically online security is not a set it and forget it kind of task. It's something that you always need to be giving yourself continued education on, and just keeping up on those articles, or, you know, taking those classes, especially if they're free. 3 resources that I like to use that are listed on this last slide is the Federal Trade Commission consumer information, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. These are all government websites, and the Oregon Division of Financial Regulation. So they have a lot of awesome resources for individuals and then also businesses, every type of demographic you can think of. So some of the information I got from them. So my contact information is right there below, my email address. And this is our Rogue CU website. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question for you. Where would somebody find out if a business is legit or not? Is that through one of the organizations that you just gave us?
Yes, so that would actually be, okay, so like the Better Business Bureau would be a good one.
And what are we looking for when we, I mean, when we go there on that website, what kind of information are we looking for when we get on there?
It really just depends on what type of business it is. I would say the number one is, you know, if you're looking for like investment advice or different stuff like that, to be on the lookout for their licensure information, and then their credentials, because you don't want to be taking information and advice from those who do not have those credentials. And the most important thing is to be looking up those complaints.
Okay.
So, you know, a lot of those like multi-level marketing at home business type scams, those can have those complaints posted online.
Okay.
And I can actually, I know I had it on one of my slides. I could send out the link if you guys would like.
Yeah.
And some of this stuff I might have to look up for you, which I'm more than happy to do. So you can just take down my information, or I can get back to you with any questions. Yeah.
okay.
What it is,
And Danielle, I'm looking for, I'm sorry. Let me put my email address in the chat function.
That would be great, yes.
I got sidetracked looking for that slide. Okay. And now I'm trying to find my camera.
Yeah.
So what would you say your biggest takeaway of today's presentation was?
Well, for me, I would be interested in just going on these websites that you gave us and just kind of looking around there, see what kind of information is there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, the different organizations that you gave us. And then, well, there's a lot to obviously be learned. I mean, I guess there's a lot of ways that people can take advantage of you and you just don't think about it when we call you or you're on social media or whatever it is. I had no idea, like, you know, like Venmo and that kind of stuff, that people can take your information from there. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing to know is that, you know, you are protected by your financial institutions. So just if you're on top of it, monitoring your accounts and monitoring these things, you know, it's hard to always know what's changing and what's moving. And, you know, these are professions of some people, unfortunately, is to make sure that they know how to scam us the best way.
Yeah.
And so just for us to kind of educate ourselves and be aware of what's happening around us and doing our own due diligence.
Yeah.
I just put the links of the 3 organizations that I noted. So consumer finance and all of those. So those are in the chat function if you guys want to reference those or copy and paste them to your computer, however you want to do that. And yeah, I really appreciate you joining me today. Hopefully you learned some stuff and you guys did great on your quizzes. You don't have to ace it. It's just knowing that those things are out there. You don't have to know exactly what they're called. Just be aware of them. Well, thank you. Thanks for coordinating, Danielle. Have a great day.